Back with this chick, this bird brain, this overweight bird brain. I mean, no disrespect, it is what it is. But you know, you see a lot of black women like her who are extremely overtly pro-black, and to the point they start dissing other groups, it's because they can't get attention from themselves. So they try to act overtly pro-black to try to steal the clout and the energy and the attention that black men create through sports, entertainment, music, etc. So she has to. That's the only way that she can really get attention for herself, is she acts extremely overtly pro-black. All right, that's why they do what they do. But let's get into this video.
There might be a discussion being had about black versus mixed people. And, you know, somebody will be like, oh, blackness comes in all shades. My whole family is light-skinned. How your whole family light-skinned? Because statistically, that don't even make sense. Because this is my thing. Most African-Americans are brown or dark-skinned. Most of us are not lighter skinned. That's just the reality.
I agree. Like the scriptures say, it tells you that most of the children of Israel were brown to dark, allegedly. But yes, that is somewhat true.
So for your whole family to be light-skinned, that means y'all went out y'all way to procreate with only other light-skinned people. And that's really not that far-fetched, because a lot of y'all knew the higher place you had in society, and you wanted to make sure that your future generations kept it.
That's a huge lie. All right, a lot of the mulattoes, unfortunately, or the light-skinned Negroes can't debunk what she's saying because they don't know any better. They don't know real history. Most people don't do real research. They just regurgitate lies and narratives and disinformation and misinformation. But actually, the reason why the mulattoes and the so-called Negroes, or the dark-skinned blacks, you know, which they are this brother and sister, but the reason why the light-skinned Negroes and the mulattoes stuck together is because of culture. All right? There were cultural differences between the mulatto FBAs and the black FBAs. All right? And the mulattoes understood back in the day, if they over-integrated with black people, they were going to get oppressed. They were going to get mistreated. So they understood they had to love black people from a distance, because the cultures that they embraced were different. That's why they stayed separate from each other. All right? Back in the days, even back in the 1800s, 1700s, it's also documented that black people had they embraced a slave culture. And also the mulattoes were slaves too, but the mulattoes did everything in their power to disassociate with the slave mindset and the slave culture. So we embraced two different cultures. All right, and a lot of black people, they embraced degeneracy. All right, like they do now. And that's why they kept separate. It wasn't just because they were quote unquote privileged. That's bullshit. All right, it was cultural differences why, and it wasn't based off just skin color either. It was, like I said, it was cultural differences why we kept our distance from each other. All right.
This is the reality. We live in a white supremacist world. That's just, ain't nobody finna sit here and argue with you about that, okay? Like, the sky's blue, white.
It's not white supremacy. It's just they're in rulership. They have rulership over the earth. It's just what it is.
Supremacy exists. Move along, okay? Now, this is the thing. Clearly, because of this, oppression exists on a sliding scale. And let me explain what I mean by that. Somebody like me is not going to be oppressed in the same capacity as someone who has lighter skin and a looser hair texture, because of the fact that that person is quite clearly closer to the white supremacist beauty standard.
Yeah, but just because they're closer to the white supremacy beauty standard doesn't mean they actually are the standard. All right? So just because you're closer, and that's what they're envious of, because allegedly they have an insecurity because they want Caucasian validations, and they're envious of the mulattoes. It's because in their brain, they feel like just because you have a white parent, or just because you're closer, just because you're a light-skinned black, you get validated quicker, or you get to move up in society quicker, which if you can just use common sense and look around and see that that's not true. All right, this society has done everything in its power to keep the mulattoes written out of history, written out of even just like American history, and disenfranchising their societies. Black people have never really been oppressed. It's actually a lot of privileges that black people have. And I'm going to make a video about dark skin privilege and how white people gave them a lot of privileges. And just based off this video, white people allowed them to be the face of the race by switching the the title of our, or the census of our people from color to black. That was a change that automatically made them the face of the race and made lighter skinned Negroes or mulattoes have to prove themselves to them. All right. But this notion that you were privileged just because you were lighter, that's nonsense. All right. It was a moral differences between mulattoes and black people. That's why that's why the mulattoes shook each other out, and it was cultural differences. All right. I was reading a book. I'm going to make a whole nother video about this, about, it should be called like the mulattoes versus the blacks. All right. Or the mulattoes versus the Negroes. And basically how the Negroes had a lack of morals back in the days, just like they do now. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they embraced degenerate ideologies, from stuff that they did, who they had sex with. They had sex with anybody and anything. And the mulattoes, we were people of morale, class. So it wasn't just about skin tone. It was about class and how you carried yourself. But that's another time for another video.
That's a fact. I don't care what you identify as, where your ancestors came from, the one drop of this, that. That is a fact. If you have lighter skin and a looser hair texture, then you are higher on the totem pole than somebody like me, who is clearly more black than you, right?
And that's not necessarily true. It's a cultural thing. Like I said, the Nigerians are darker than we are. A lot of these Africans who come over here, these Hamites, they're darker than black Americans. But notice that they're more successful than light-skinned black Americans who are born over here. Why is that? Because it's a cultural thing. It's not a skin color thing. All right? They looking to be accepted, the Nigerians and the other groups, people of color groups. They're not looking for acceptance from other groups of people, and they understand how to pimp America. Black people don't know how to pimp America. They know how to pimp each other. And I actually take that back. Dark-skinned black people do know how to pimp people. They pimp people through the victim mentality and trying to guilt trip people into feeling sorry for them. But and that does work. All right, and trying to blame people and trying to get people to prove themselves to them. So they do know how to pimp people and try to scam people.
And because of that, a lot of people with these features chose to procreate with other people with these features so that they could keep their privilege. Y'all finna...
No, that's not what it was. It had to do with culture, and it had to do with they understood if they integrated with blacks, their culture would be destroyed, and also they would be oppressed how they are now by over integrating with black people. And I actually wrote the book about. I'm gonna tell you what the book is in the next video. And it was this young mulatto girl, and this brother did a video about it. And they was talking about how when they took the census, the mulattoes off the census, the U.S. Census, and they over integrated them with black people. Talking about the European Caucasian colonizers, when they over integrated mulattoes with blacks, because before the European colonizers even got to America, people of color that were already here in America were already separating themselves based off of culture and based off of skin tone. They were already doing it naturally. But when they forced mulattoes to over integrate with dark skinned black people, or mulatto FBAs with dark skinned FBAs, nobody was a fan of it. It was this mulatto female who said, if y'all gonna overgroup us with the N words, I might as well start acting like an N word, because they had a lack of morals. It didn't have nothing just to do with skin tone. All right, it had to do with morals as well. All right, and ever since the mulattoes have over integrated with black people, meaning dark skinned black people, they have been getting extremely mistreated, especially the males. All right, and they've been getting marginalized. And the mulattoes back then, they understood that. All right, that's what it was about. It wasn't just about skin tone. And that's why a lot of the mulattoes through American history, they had a tendency to look out for one another, because they understood they were getting attacked by a lot of people like they are now.
Like, dumb about it. Y'all finna act goofy, but I know for a fact that in recent times, a lot of y'all have heard your own family members say something about avoiding dating darker skinned people. In fact, I got a personal story about this. So I
disagree. I've heard a lot of people talk about avoiding light-skinned people, especially the men dating them or procreating with them. and not giving light-skinned men a counterpart to rest on in the black community. All right, with their own group of women and even with darker women. So I disagree with that.
Who was light skinned, okay? And mind you, within my family, she's the anomaly because my family is like brown and dark skinned, right? So a couple years ago, I was dating this Kenyan guy who was darker skinned than me. Like, he was literally like a black color, whereas I'm like a dark brown color, right? So I showed her a picture of him, and she was like, "Oh no, he too dark." I was like, "Girl, you know I'm dark too, right?"
Yeah, but you literally just said there was a difference between you and him. You said he was a dark brown color, and he was like damn near pitch black. All right, which nobody on the planet Earth is black. Everybody is brown. Your skin is not black, it's brown. Your hair is black. And you said that, why are you trying to force a black American woman, or let's just say an Israelite woman, to trying to shame her because she don't like Hamite men? If you know anything about the Israelites or the black Americans, we're not known for being extremely dark. That's not our people. Our people are known for being copper colored. Now, the Africans are known for being very, even darker shades of brown. But us, no. So you're trying to shame this woman because this Israelite or FBA light-skinned woman, because she didn't want to get with a Kenyan man that was extremely dark, and trying to use that as why she's quote-unquote colorist. No, she doesn't like that phenotype. All right? So it is what it is. No difference with somebody saying that somebody's too white or too light.
Like, did you forget who you was talking to for a second there? Now, like I said, my auntie is light-skinned. She's also older. She like 65, right? But this is my point. My auntie is not the only person her age and in the generations before her who had this thought. A lot of y'all family members had the exact same thought. They said, okay, we have lighter skin. Let's make sure we procreate with somebody who has lighter skin like us so that we can keep our privilege throughout the generations. Honestly, I'm not even mad at them. I be telling y'all this all the time when y'all be like, oh, yeah, you know, like...
All right, and there's a privilege to everything, and that's not true. She keeps trying to disperse it. It wasn't just about privilege, it's about culture. And it was about morale, while light-skinned people understood not to integrate back then like that. All right, the mulattoes didn't start to integrate with the blacks until really until the 90s. When you see the mulatto females get up and dump light-skinned dudes for black dudes. Because they was trying to... They were basically giving all this attention and praise in the media. They always done that. All right, it's actually the other way around. They have coddled dark-skinned people for so long. Even back then, there's documents. I got my hands on documents talking about how a lot of these liberal Caucasians, they would coddle darker-skinned people, and they would give them excuses on why they act the way they act, so they can keep encouraging them to act the way they act. All right, and I'm going to do a video about it very soon, so stay tuned. But yeah, that's a false narrative that she's promoting, and most light skins don't know no better, so they just go along with it.
Racials passed into white society, yada yada yada. I'm not mad at that. I'm really not, right?
That's bullshit. They try to use it as an excuse why they made the one drop rule. Well, it's so they wouldn't get into white society, and then that's bullshit because they already had their own societies. All right, they already had their own category called the mulattoes. All right, the reason why they made the one drop rule is because they wanted to confuse mulattoes and they wanted to disenfranchise mulattoes. That's all this whole shit ever been about. They're trying to confuse them. Black people do it and white people do it. The only difference is that white people are upfront with it and they're bold about it. Black people flip-flop, and they do that purposely to try to draw you in and try to, you got to piss them off, or you got to get them, stroke their ego to get them to tell them the truth. But, yeah.
Because if I had the opportunity to pass as white during slavery, I'd be like, pip, cherry, man. Y'all niggas never would have seen me again. So I'm not mad at y'all for wanting to keep y'all privilege, right? But I'm just confused by the fact that y'all pretend that we all go through the same thing when it's convenient, but any other time, you well aware of your privilege and how to maintain it.
Yeah, but just like black people have, that's not even true. All right, this whole slavery narrative is not true. They keep trying to make it seem like slavery was about race. Slavery was not about race. It wasn't not. You had black slave owners, you had mulatto slave owners, you had white slave owners. All right, this nonsense that she's spewing. All right. Sometimes you had mulatto slave owners who were over black people as well. All right, if they had a white father who was a slave master, they would pass that inheritance, the inheritance down to mulatto child that had a mixed child, or vice versa. If a black man had a mixed child, he would pass his inheritance down to his children, if there were slaves or whatever. All right, but that was, and you had, like I said, it's a false narrative that they push, and most people don't know this stuff. All right.
So y'all will play in my face when I bring up something like colorism.
Just like it's a privilege for y'all to be the face of the race. All right, getting able to gatekeep stuff that y'all didn't even invent. All right, because white people gave y'all that privilege, and also they've always coddled y'all throughout this whole society. All right, and gave y'all excuses to keep acting and doing the degenerate stuff that y'all have been doing this whole entire time.
Talk about the issues that I face for being darker skinned specifically, y'all will play in my face all day. Oh, we all black, we all go through racism, right? Yeah, somehow y'all managed to see the
but y'all do the same thing to light-skinned Negroes. When light-skinned people talk about their experiences and how, you know, they don't have an identity, or because white people and y'all took it from them. And keep in mind that mixed people didn't even start this shit. Y'all wouldn't walk around putting yourselves on pedestals and doing all this stuff. That was them who was kept saying they wanted light-skinned babies and my baby light-skinned with good hair. They kept throwing those stigmas onto y'all. They've been doing this since the ancient world, but especially here since we've been in Babylon or here in America, they've been throwing that stuff onto y'all. So, they don't even make sense, all right? Now they're complaining about the pedestal they put y'all on. Y'all didn't tell them to put y'all on that pedestal. That's something that they willingly did, all right? And that pedestal had nothing to do with it. Like, y'all wasn't even the beauty standard. The beauty standard is blonde hair, blue-eyed white people. It wasn't mulattoes. It wasn't brown, tan Negroes. What the hell does that got to do with a nigga that randomly came out light? Or a mixed person? Or a person that just came from soil? A tan person that just came from soil? And let me say this before I exit this video soon. They've been running with this narrative that dark-skinned people are just the original. Like the Most High didn't make the Most High made people of color. He didn't just make dark-skinned people, and if you're anything lighter than that as a Negro, then you're watered down. That's bullshit. That's a narrative that white people have allowed them to spread to help out with their self-esteem issues. If you look at soil, if you look at dirt, it comes in various shades of brown, from light brown, light skin, to dark brown, dark skin. If you even read the Bible, it talks about the word ruddy. Like it tells you, if you look at the name Adam, like Adam and Eve in the scriptures, it's also rumored that they could have been light-skinned black Americans. If you look at them, if you look at the name Adam, it means earth, or red man earth. Adam was described as being ruddy. And if you look at the term ruddy, it means a tan, reddish, brown color. Like when it tells you that King David was ruddy. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about somebody who was jet black or dark brown. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about somebody who was light brown, what you call a red bone. If you live in the hood, you got a homeboy in the hood here in America, black America, you call your partner red. Like the old comedian Red Fox, you know, or the rapper Red Man. It's what it's talking about. All right. And Adam and Eve, by the way, were not the first people of color on the planet Earth. It was actually people of color on the Earth before Adam and Eve existed. They actually had parents. But that's just another topic for another day, but I'll keep going.
Difference when you take into account the fact that your whole fucking family tree is multi-generational, mixed, light skin, whatever. So you telling me that your ancestors for generations could see the privilege that they had based on their lighter skin and were like, oh, let's make sure we only procreate with other people with lighter skin so we can maintain this privilege throughout the generations. But now in 2023, you want to play in my face, talk about, oh, we all the same. I don't see the difference. Like, don't treat me like I'm stupid, please.
You are stupid. You don't know shit about history. Or you acting stupid. All right. Before you speak up, you got to read up. You got to know what you're talking about. Now, I'm not saying that the mulattoes wasn't held as far as high esteem as far as beauty, but that's black people's fault because they kept putting mulattoes on this pedestal that the mulattoes didn't force them or tell them to put them on. That's just something that they kept doing. All right. A lot of this shit about light skin and good hair, that's their dark skinned mothers who keep telling them to do, to seek after people that's like that. For example, I got a video of a dark skinned woman teaching her her dark skinned children that light skin is better. It wasn't white people who were saying that. It wasn't light skinned people who were telling them that. It was her who was telling her and indoctrinating her children with that. But then they get around and they try to blame other groups of people Uh, in that old book, in those documents, it was talking about that back in the 1800s, how a lot of black people, dark skinned people, they would do stuff purposefully and they would blame other people for the stuff that they were doing, or having a victim mentality. All right, and you're never going to be able to be a king or be in rulership over the earth if you have a victim mentality. It doesn't work like that. You have to look yourself in the mirror in order to be a king or a ruler. It doesn't work. Like, you can't be a victim. All right. Also, I was watching a video with O'Shea Duke Jackson, and O'Shea Duke Jackson was talking about how his dark skinned grandmother was literally telling him as a dark skinned man not to bring a dark skinned woman home. All right, so this is pain that's self inflicted with them, but nobody ever calls it out because they got shaming tactics, and they got people behind him that's trying to push these narratives. All right, but I don't take these people seriously. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. I see you on the next one.